Good evening. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has denied the Philippine president's claim that he agreed to put the Manila hostage tragedy behind them. The Philippines has rejected Beijing's calls for a swift settlement, claiming it's too late as the matter has already been solved. ATV's Belinda Lord reports.
Survivors and relatives of those who died in the Manila bus siege 3 years ago were offered a glimmer of hope last night after it was revealed that Premier Li Keqiang discussed the issue with Philippine President Benigno Aquino on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit. Li called for a speedy resolution to the matter, noting that it had dragged on for much too long and piling the pressure on the Philippines to offer a formal apology and pay compensation to the victims. But hope gave way to disappointment and confusion this morning after an article in a major Filipino newspaper, the Manila Standard today, reported that Aquino had rejected Li's calls to resolve the matter. The paper quoted Aquino's spokesman as saying Li's appeal for a quick resolution had come too late, as Hong Kong and the Philippines had already agreed to put the issue behind them. The supposed truce was reportedly decided during Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying's meeting with the Philippine president 4 days ago on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Bali. While Aquino flatly refused to apologize, Leung came home with positive news, saying the Philippines had agreed to official talks with Hong Kong on settling outstanding issues, but no time frame was given for discussions. Facing concerns that Leung may have sold out, the Chief Executive's office issued a statement this afternoon indicating that the matter is far from over. It reiterated that Leung immediately and clearly expressed his disagreement with Aquino's argument that the incident had already been resolved from the Philippines' perspective. The statement went on to stress that Leung had warned Hong Kong's relationship with the Philippines would continue to be affected if the matter was not properly resolved, but it failed to clarify whether Leung had in fact agreed with Aquino to put it behind them. The director of the Chief Executive's office, Edward Yao, also sidestepped the question on whether Leung had agreed to let the matter rest. But he told a radio program that if the Philippines wants to end this controversy, it will have to restart negotiations first. Then earlier this evening, the Chief Executive's office issued an amended statement dismissing Philippine media reports as out of context. It clarified that Leung had stressed the only way Hong Kong and the Philippines can put the matter behind them is through official bilateral talks and taking appropriate action. The government today sent an email to Aquino to set a date for bilateral discussions. In a related development, a Filipino senator has urged the Philippine president to show humility and apologize. JV Edna estimated that the Philippines has lost around $12 million in revenue because Hong Kong tourists have been avoiding the country under a black travel warning, and he accused Aquino's administration of sacrificing tourist revenues in exchange for pride. Beijing again urged the Philippines to appropriately resolve the controversy. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying called on Manila to attach great importance to the issue, seriously handle it, and seek a reasonable and sensible solution as soon as possible.
The chief executive said today he has a strategy worked out to take action against the Philippine government, but gave no details. He wants to give diplomacy a chance first. After issuing piecemeal statements that only succeeded in confusing everyone, Leung Chun-ying had to face the media at the last minute this evening to give a proper explanation. And he only spoke in Chinese, despite an international audience following his remarks. The chief executive began by making it clear that he had never agreed to put the Manila hostage tragedy behind them when he met Philippine President Benigno Aquino on the sidelines of the APEC summit in Bali. He promised to continue pressing the Philippines for a formal apology and compensation, and said he was waiting for a reply as to when the two sides could start the dialogue, agreed during their meeting in Bali. When asked whether he would take any steps to punish the Philippine government for its reluctance to meet the demands of survivors and victims' families, Leung said he has a strategy, but this is not the time to reveal it. He said he had explained Hong Kong's grievances to President Xi Jinping, who expressed concern and promised his full support to the SAR government to handle the matter, while ordering mainland authorities to follow up as well. Leung had turned around to leave when he finished his media briefing this evening, but he returned to the mic stand when asked why he had agreed to an insulting seating arrangement when meeting Aquino, who kept him on the side with his aides like a subordinate. Leung said there was only one chance to meet the Filipino leader in Bali, and he would not have secured the agreement on formal talks between the two sides if he had felt insulted and walked out. Tse Chi-kin, brother of slain tour guide Master Tse, met the chief executive this afternoon and accepted his version of what exactly was said between Leung and Aquino.
We are satisfied for today's result. Actually, not many promise, but he just promised that he will keep this issue and try his best to solve it as soon as possible.
One extreme suggestion to punish the Philippines is to stop hiring Filipino maids in Hong Kong. Two lawmakers from the Radical People Power Party are planning to move a private member's bill in LegCo to make this happen, although most of their colleagues in the chamber are against such a drastic move. Security Secretary Lai Tong-kwok warned today that any changes made to laws that will affect the livelihood of Filipino maids must be considered very carefully, as too many local families depend on them. To other news, education authorities and kindergartens in Tai Po and North District have agreed on a series of measures to avoid chaos as parents fight for school places for their children. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
Desperate parents forming long queues outside kindergartens. It's become a common sight in Tai Po and North District. That's because mainland parents with Hong Kong-born children are competing against locals who fear all school spaces will be snapped up by their cross-border rivals. After meeting with more than 60 kindergarten principals from Tai Po and North District this morning, Education Secretary Edna announced a series of measures to improve chaotic enrollment procedures. In the most controversial move, each child will now be restricted to seeking a place at only one school at a time. This means parents can still apply to as many schools as they like, but a 3-day registration deadline will be imposed in mid-December to prevent one student from reserving seats in multiple schools. Parents of successful applicants will be contacted before mid-December if their children are accepted. Parents will then have to register at one kindergarten or more during those 3 days to reserve their spot or spots temporarily. All schools will send information on students they've registered to the Education Bureau, which will identify students who have registered at multiple kindergartens. The schools can choose to communicate with the parents or revoke their acceptance altogether. Meanwhile, the Bureau will give each student one registration certificate, and parents will have to hand that in to the school they prefer the most in February as a final confirmation. Authorities will inform kindergartens to release spaces that haven't been confirmed by a certificate. If parents change their minds after handing in their certificate, they will have to take it back and give it to the new kindergarten of their choice before the new school year. In the past, parents have had to wait for 9 to 10 months before they knew if their child had been accepted, said Ng. Now that there's a unified deadline, parents can find out the enrollment results a lot sooner. Other measures include providing unlimited application forms for parents to pick up or download online, urging schools to enroll students who live nearby, increasing spaces by using empty classrooms, and setting up a hotline to assist parents looking for a kindergarten. Several members of the Democratic Party protested outside the meeting venue this morning, accusing the education minister of mishandling the issue and demanding his resignation. Emily Sue, ATV News.
Health authorities are testing canteen staff at 2 public hospitals after a mother and son who worked there fell ill with cholera. The suspected source of infection is seafood from a wet market in Tsuen Wan. A 54-year-old woman who worked at the Queen Mary Hospital canteen was confirmed on Wednesday as the first cholera case in Hong Kong this year. Her 32-year-old son, who works at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital canteen, also has the disease. Both patients came down with vomiting and diarrhea after eating seafood bought from a wet market in Tsuen Wan last week. Health Secretary Koh Ing-man suspects the seafood was to blame.
In this particular instance, the 2 patients may have a common source, having taken some of the seafood bought from the market. Therefore, we are now investigating along this particular direction. Specimens have been taken from the markets concerned.
The health minister is very concerned and has ordered a thorough cleanup at the patients' workplaces.
As a precautionary measure, we have also conducted sterilization and disinfection for the 2 canteens, which these 2 patients are working in. And the workers in these 2 canteens will also be tested.
There were 2 imported cholera cases last year and 1 imported and 1 local case in 2011. In a separate development, Ko said more than 1,000 patients have undergone tests for a drug-resistant bacteria at Queen Elizabeth Hospital after an unusually high number of infections this year. The new vancomycin-resistant enterococcus, or VRE, is a bacteria that is resistant to vancomycin, a strong antibiotic. Ko said tests showed 1,000 patients do not have the bug, while 37 tested positive. The screening process is still underway. Police are investigating 2 robberies in Tsim Sha Tsui. One was foiled by staff at an electronics store. The other robbery saw 2 men escape with more than $10 million worth of jewelry from a shop. ATV's Bo Leung reports.
The 2 men stormed into this jewellery shop on Hanoi Road in Tsim Sha Tsui at around 11:30 this morning. They threw flammable liquid at shop staff and threatened them with a gun before making off with around $10 million worth of jewellery. Police have not ruled out the possibility of an inside job.
According to our investigations, they directly approach the shops and then they can rob the stolen property within short minutes of time, and then they can also escape through the route. We think they may have been quite familiar with this area.
The 6 employees didn't suffer any injuries and no customers were in the shop at the time. At around the same time in Tsim Sha Tsui this morning, a man was arrested on Granville Road for attempted robbery. The 23-year-old suspect is accused of barging into an electronics store wearing a wig, sunglasses and a mask just as it was opening for business. He brandished a fake gun and used plastic handcuffs to restrain staff. One employee managed to sound the store alarm when he was ordered to open the shop till and hand over the cash. When the would-be robber tried to flee, some of the staff managed to break free and stop him. Bo Leung, ATV News.
Overseas, the experts in charge of dismantling Syria's chemical weapons stockpile have been awarded this year's Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee said the work of the global chemical weapons watchdog might inspire other countries to destroy their banned arsenals. The Nobel Committee came out earlier this evening to announce this year's Peace Prize winner, almost 1 hour after the result was revealed in a rare leak to the Norwegian media.
The Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided that the Nobel Peace Prize for 2013 is to be awarded to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, for its extensive work for eliminating chemical weapons.
The little-known intergovernmental organization was thrust into the spotlight last month when it was sent to Syria to investigate a nerve gas attack in a Damascus suburb. Based in The Hague, the organization was called in after Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who was blamed by the West for the attack, agreed to give up his banned arsenal as part of a deal brokered by the US and Russia. The OPCW's deployment is credited with averting an attack on Syria by fellow Nobel Peace Prize winner US President Barack Obama. The Nobel Committee said the award was a reminder to nations with massive stockpiles of banned weapons such as the US and Russia to get rid of them, especially when they were demanding Syria surrender its weapons. The OPCW only has about 500 staff and an annual budget of under $100 million. The announcement is a surprise as the favorite to win was Pakistani teenager Malala Yousafzai, a campaigner for women's rights who was shot in the head by the Taliban. U.S. whistleblowers Edward Snowden and Bradley Manning were also hot favorites. Finance news: U.S. lawmakers appear to have made progress in negotiations aimed at avoiding a debt default, but it will only be temporary.
Homeless people rely on this food bank in Florida when they need a square meal. But the owners say they're running low on supplies because of the federal government shutdown.
There's a lot of uncertainty past November of where we're going to be able to get our food, if we're going to be able to get any government food at all.
It's just one of 202 food banks affected by bickering between Republicans and Democrats over the budget. But a more pressing issue now is raising the debt ceiling, which must be done before the 17th of October, or the U.S. will default on its debts. The Republicans have been asking for a delay to President Barack Obama's health care program in return for agreeing to his budget and demanding debt reduction measures to counterbalance raising his borrowing limit. But at their latest meeting, the Republicans offered him a short-term solution.
So what we want to do is to offer the president today the ability to move a temporary increase in the debt ceiling, in agreement to go to conference on the budget, for his willingness to sit down and discuss with us a way forward to reopen the government and to start to deal with America's pressing problems.
The deal would extend the debt ceiling deadline until the 22nd of November. Earlier, the Democrats said they would not negotiate until the Republicans agreed to the budget and ended the shutdown.
This is a situation where they do not know what they want. I hope the Republicans decide what they want, and we'll be happy to work with them in any way.
Republicans were pretty clear earlier today. They want to negotiate before you reopen the government. Is that
not going to happen?
Even though nothing has been agreed on, markets rallied overnight, with the Dow Jones jumping 2% and the S&P 500 posting its largest daily gain since the beginning of the year.
Markets are rallying very strongly just on the fact that there seems to be a way to address the debt ceiling and at least nudge the can down the road, if not kick the can down the road, because it's only 6 weeks.
The deadlock comes as finance ministers and central bankers from around the world gather in Washington for annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Both bodies warned of the consequences of a U.S. default and said they were preparing for the worst.
We have to engage in a dialogue with our members to see how they can best prepare for that and anticipate. That's a work that is underway. I hope, in a few weeks' time, we will look back and say, what a waste of time that was, because it was unnecessary, because it didn't happen.
So what we know is that even a near miss will have a real impact on developing countries. And so we are watching carefully, and we just urge all policymakers to move quickly to come to some resolution, because the impacts are going to be severe.
European Central Bank President Mario Draghi warned that even a prolonged standoff over the debt could hurt the global economy. Emily Sue, ATV News.
Hong Kong shares closed at the highest in almost 3 weeks today on rising hopes that a U.S. debt default can be averted. The Hang Seng Index gained 267 points to close at 23,218. Turnover stood at $59 billion. The benchmark took its cue from an overnight rally on Wall Street. Let's take a look at markets overseas, starting in the U.S. The Dow Jones is up 17 points. In Europe, the London FTSE is up 49 points. The Frankfurt DAX is up 21 points. The Paris CAC is down 5 points. US dollar cross rates: the euro 1.35, the pound is 1.59, it's 98.27 Japanese yen against the US dollar. The weather forecast for the next few days: mainly fine tomorrow apart from 1 or 2 rain patches at first. Temperatures will range from 25 to 31 degrees. Sunny intervals on Sunday and mainly cloudy with rain patches next week. Here's a look at the weather around the world. That's all the news for now. Thanks for watching ATV. I'm Edna. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Coming up, racing to win. All the latest news of the Mr. Asia contest and Miss Asia pageant 2013 is on WeChat. Don't wait. Sign in to keep close with the upcoming legends. With sunshine and water, there'll be Chinese people. Our crew travelled all over the world to find these brave souls who have gone through the toughest time to settle in foreign lands. They did the impossible, and we make sure their stories will be heard. The 15th route-seeking anniversary. Stories from afar. Tomorrow night at 8:30. Love it? Say it. Discover the latest and the hottest trends in Japan. Feel the pulse of the vibrant and fabulous culture. JP Time TV. Every Sunday night at 6:25.
What drives hundreds and thousands of people to come together as one, coming across country, take a bath in the Holy River to pray for spiritual healing, mark the new year in their sacred procession? Behind the fascinating gathering, there is a spiritual world only belonging to these believers. Documentary World, 1 in a Million, Tuesday night at 9.
Stay close to fresh K-pop from the hottest selling artists to the up-and-coming superstars. Keep in touch with the latest chart of the Korean pop music scene on Samsung Digital Special, Pops in Seoul, Thursday at 6:25.
People sweeping graves are reminded to keep the environment clean to prevent mosquito breeding. Don't leave behind any rubbish or containers, such as lunch boxes, plastic bags, buckets or drink containers. Before leaving, put sand into the holes used for incense sticks and securely cover the opening of the fixed vase with plastic to avoid water accumulation. To prevent mosquito bites, wear a long-sleeve shirt and trousers. Prevent mosquito breeding. Maintain clean cemeteries.
Welcome along to Racing to Win, looking at our first Saturday afternoon program of the current season, and it's an all-turf program at Sha Tin, and the Chinese Club Challenge Cup is the highlight race. And we've got some good horses returning tomorrow, and well, interesting race as well with Mazzani going with the blinkers on tomorrow, Brett.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? The gear change for Mazzani, blinkers on up to the mile as well, but as you say, some good quality horses there on display on Saturday. Rail in the A+3 position, small jackpot in the TT, 2.1 million.
Yeah, I think it could be a good day at the office for potentially John Moore and Douglas White. Not that they team up all that often, but I think both of those will have good days at the office tomorrow. Douglas looks like he's got a lot of good rides, and John's sort of latter half of the card looked quite strong.
Yeah, flagship Shine. Douglas seems to have done everything with this for the last 2 months. Very interesting runner resuming. And of course, we'll be waiting for, well, your nomination for the jockey to back in the Jockey Challenge.
Oh, what about
Wednesday night? Ty England.
Well, he came with a late run, and it was a dead heat in the end. And Clint suggested on the show as well, he thought Karis Teton was a little bit of value, and
well, it wasn't as much value as your selection. Ty got out to
400 to 1.
I think he got out to 800 to 1. I really do. I think it was 800 to 1 was the best price bet.
Just prior to the start of race 6.
Well done with that. That's fantastic. Oh. So you can get a few wrong if you're going to get one home at 400 to 1 or 800 to 1, Brett.
Well, let's hope someone had something on it.
Yes.
We'll check out the top flux there, because 800 to 1 would be the result of the season.
It would be.
Now, some information to pass on. There's quite a few
scratchings. Now, starting with race 2, number 14, Good Smile. This has come out. We'll tell you why in a minute. Nicole Pinner gets on the replacement record again. Race 4, number 1, Affection is out, replaced by Mr. Mark, who's going to back up from Wednesday. Race 8, number 8, What Do You Dream, scratch, replaced by G1 Leader, and Ben So is the replacement. And race 10, number 9, Green Eagle, out, replaced by Let Me Handle It, and Ty England takes the ride. Keith Young not riding. This is a bad flu.
Apparently he collapsed or wasn't well at the track this morning. I spoke to one of the stewards on duty, and he wasn't in a very good way. So yeah, let's hope he recovers quickly.
Yeah. Well, Alvin Ong will pick up the ride on Follow the Wind in the first. Now in the third, number 12, there is race 3, number 12. Is young hero Eddie Lai. In the fourth, interesting one here, Dragon Keeper Gerard Mosse picks up the ride. In the fifth, number 14, Young Warrior is Ben So. In the seventh, 7 Swift Shadow, Nico Pinner for John Size. And in the last, Derek Lung takes the ride on number 14, being Winnie's horse. Now just note that scratching of Good Smile on the second is owing to the fact that no rider could be found for a similar weight once Keith Young was indisposed, so that's the reason for the scratching there. A Good Smile.
And you mentioned
very rare one.
It is a rare one. Gerald Mosse back in town as well.
Yes, and I think Gerald might ride a winner or two there tomorrow.
Every chance.
There we go.
Don't know if it'll be in the first. Very interesting runner here.